If only for the first 20 minutes alone you have to watch it. Okay, everybody, today we're going all the way back to 1979 to take a look at a little forgotten film. Well, maybe you didn't forget it, but either way, we're here to look at it no matter what. We're talking When a Stranger Calls. Sometimes ripped off, sometimes remade, sometimes duplicated, but never equaled. Anyway, before we dig into it anymore, before we look at this gem any farther, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
On a warm September evening,
Dr. Malakis?
Jill Johnson was babysitting for the two young children of a wealthy doctor.
Okay. Bye.
They told her where they would be and when they would be home. They told her everything she had to know, except what to do when a stranger calls.
Hello?
Have you checked the children?
What? Hello, could you get me the police?
Well, there's really nothing you can do about it down here.
Have you checked the children?
He's watching me through the windows.
Well, if he calls again, we can try to trace it.
Why haven't you checked the children?
Please, can't you help me? I'm all alone here. What do you want?
Your blood.
Leave me alone!
Jill, this is Sergeant Sacker. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Jill, just get out of that house.
And the terror just begins when a stranger calls.
Okay, this motion picture was directed by Fred Walton. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Anyway, he did a few things. We're talking about he did stuff like Hadley's Rebellion, and probably, maybe most famously in your mind, April Fool's Day, and The Rosary Murderers. And then a bunch of TV, Homewrecker, The Stepford Husbands, When a Stranger Calls Back. So, not a career that's going to jump in your face. He's not Spielberg or Carpenter or somebody like that, but he made a couple flicks you're going to remember. Okay, before we even get going into the cast, I am so happy about this because there's a list of actors in this that I've never had a chance to even review or talk about in any of my other motion pictures. At least I don't think. And I'm so glad I get to talk about him here. Starring as John Clifford, Charles Durning. Come on. Anyway, here we go. He's been in a bunch of classic shit. We're talking about he has been in stuff like The Sting, Sisters, Tootsie, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Dog Day Afternoon, The Hindenburg, and The Fury, and The Final Countdown, and North Dallas 40, and Sharky's Machine, and The Hudsucker Proxy, and he was even on TV and stuff like, Everybody Loves Raymond, and Evening Shade, and all that kind of stuff. So he had a massive, massive, massive career. I think he lived like he was like 89 or 90 or whatever it was, but big career, and he was in this. Starring as Jill Johnson, Carol Kane. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Ha! Whatever. Anyway, she's been in cool stuff. We're talking about she was in The Princess Bride and Scrooged and Transylvania's 65000 and The World's Greatest Lover and Dog Day Afternoon and Jumpin' Jack Flash and Ishtar and Baby on Board and the Pacifier and Addams Family Values. And to me, she will always be Simka, wife of Latka from the immortal TV show Taxi. Just the way it is. Playing Tracy. Oh man, here's an actress I've never had a chance to talk about before. I probably won't even again. But awesome shit. Colleen Dewhurst. Let's roll. We're talking about she was in stuff like Ice Castles and The Q and The Dead Zone and The Boy Who Could Fly. If anybody remembers that, it was a cute little flick, man. And massive amounts of TV. We're talking like everything from The Virginian to Dr. Kildare to The Blue and the Gray, The Civil War, Murphy Brown. So, man, she had one of those faces that jumped right out. You knew you'd seen her. You knew you'd seen her around before. Maybe you didn't know the name, but you knew her. Playing Charlie Garber. Lieutenant Charlie Garber. Ron O'Neill. Oh, we're going to have some fun. We're talking Superfly. We're talking Superfly TNT. We're talking he was in The Force of One and Hero and the Terror. 2 flicks with the almighty Chuck Norris and The Master Gunfighter and The Final Countdown and Original Gangsters and ton of TV work from The Equalizer to Hill Street Blues. So, if you're of my age, you remember him from the 70s, the 80s, whatever, Ron O'Neal. Playing Curt Duncan, Tony Beckley. Let's go. We're talking about he was in things like The Lost Continent, The Italian Job, Get Carter, In the Devil's Garden, Revenge of the Pink Panther, and a lot of TV work, you know, from Little Lord Fauntleroy to Doctor Who. And if I pronounce Fauntleroy wrong, God knows I'll probably pronounce it wrong and different the next time I say it. Who cares? And finally, we're going to throw a little bit of love out to Dr. Monk, Rachel Roberts. I mentioned her a long, long time ago in one flick. Let's do it again. We're talking about she was in Foul Play. She was in Murder on the Orient Express, and Yanks, and Doctors' Wives, and tons of TV over in Britain. You know what I mean? Night Gallery, and Our Mutual Friend, in The Firm of Girdlestone. So, she was around. She did a lot of kind of stuff. She was out there. Cool to see her pop up in this, or, yeah, she popped up in this before, so whatever, it doesn't make a difference. Who cares? Let's get going to the story. Okay, everybody, I'm going to do this in 90 seconds or less. So I keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, and so we can get to where we'd much rather be, the summation. And this one's going to be really easy to take care of. Anyway, let's go. You got this girl, Jill. She's a babysitter, and she goes over to this fairly affluent couple's house to do some babysitting. And when she gets there, she starts getting all kinds of weird phone calls. Phone call after phone call after phone call. She starts getting freaked out, scared, terrified. She calls the police. They're not much help. She calls up the guy who she's babysitting for. Can't get a hold of him. That kind of stuff. Finally, the police listen to her for a second. They say, hey, keep him on the line for a minute. We'll trace the call. He calls again. She gabs with him for a few seconds. The police call and they tell her the killer is in the house. Well, let's just say some bad things happen to the children upstairs, the children she should be checking on, whatever, and both the kids get killed, parents come home, and we shift years into the future, where we find out Mr. Curt has just escaped from a mental asylum, and Charles Durning, who used to be a police officer and worked on this case, is now a private investigator, where he gets hired by the father of the slain children to basically go out, find this man that he knows now escaped, and to kill him. Well, Curt's running around, he starts following this chick, starts hanging around a little bit too much. Charles Durning finds out about it, tries to trap him. It is what it is. I don't want to go too much farther down the road, but you get the idea. Psychopath, stalks a babysitter, goes to a mental institution, escapes from the mental institution. There's somebody out there looking to... Christ, it sounds like Halloween. Somebody out there is looking to find him, and this guy's looking to actually to kill him. Long story short, you get the idea. It is what it is. Okay, everybody. Does When a Stranger Calls work? Goddamn right it works. It's a really, really, really good flick. It's one of those motion pictures that isn't going to be in the pantheon of horror, but it sure as hell is above Grindhouse and some of the schlock that lied underneath it in your typical New York City theater. So let me tell you that. Anyway, let's get the big three out of the way. First off, the directing. Yeah, the directing's solid. It's all right. It's not amazing. There's parts of it that are kind of stupid. Think of the scene where he's getting Curt's face punched in by the guy in the bar. There's all kinds of little flaws with it, but the feel of the movie through the directing is solid enough. It's gritty. It's street feeling. It is what it is. It's passable. The writing? It's not bad. For this kind of motion picture, it's actually a little bit above average, I'll say that. So the writing, not bad at all. It's not going to throw you or pull you out of the motion picture. It's kind of cool. It is what it is. The acting. The acting is where this thing shines, really, because you got a list of people in this who are really good actors, where you almost say to yourself, what the hell are they doing in this thing? Honestly, there is real talent in this movie. I'm talking Charles Durning is one of the greats. He is just one of the greats. Comedy, drama, good guy, bad guy, you name it, he could play it. Colleen Dewhurst always delivers. Kane is actually really, really good in this, and she deserves all the praise she got for being in this thing. So you have a bunch of people acting in this thing that really, really deliver and really lift it above being what it kind of is. Now let's get back to the elephant in the living room. Everybody knows this motion picture is famous, probably most famous for the first 20 minutes of it, where she's basically in the house being stalked by the whatever you want to call it, the obscene phone call or whatever. That's the main thing that people's memories center around. But the whole motion picture on a whole was very good. Yes, it's hard to live up to an opening like that. Yes, it's hard to keep it at that level when you've hit that, basically the peak of it, 20 minutes in. You're never going to hit that peak again in this motion picture again. But it stays taut, it stays good, it stays effective, and you're still interested all the way through it, even though nothing will live up to that first 20 minutes. Let's be honest. And this show, really, what a powerhouse memory that thing made on everybody back in the day. If you go watch Scream, they just lifted the first 20 minutes of this and stuck it in the first 20 minutes of that. Really. I mean, that was, if not an homage, a blatant copying of what takes place in this motion picture. So that shows you the effect that that scene had on other filmmakers in the horror industry and how much they respected it and how much they loved what was done with it. One of the things that really has to be pointed out was the actual great performance by Tony Beckley, who played Curt, the psycho-friggin-path killer in this thing. Because the way it was written and the way he performed it made him kind of a different kind of psychopathic killer than you've seen in a lot of other motion pictures. Yeah, you've seen the one, you had, Norman Bates and Psycho and all that kind of stuff. But in this one, he really is a strange, weird, bizarre, somewhat pathetic human being. And the way Tony Beckley plays him is 110% that. You don't get the fact that this is not Michael Myers, folks. This is not Jason Voorhees. This is none of those kind of people. This is a guy much closer to a Norman Bates who really is so far gone, he doesn't really realize just how far gone he is. I mean, his mind is split from reality in this motion picture. His mind is devoid of anything that you or I could probably, at least hopefully out there, understand. It's just, he is a broken, disturbed, pathetic, deranged human being that is just frightening and terrifying in that way. You're not afraid of this guy like if you're going to get into a bar fight. Well, that actually happens in the movie. You're not afraid of this guy like you're going to bump into on the street and he's going to kick the shit out of you. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to picture him chasing you down an alleyway. It's not going to work that way. He's one of those characters that frightens you because you don't know what's going on behind in that brain, and when you don't expect it, he's going to do something screwy to you. He's going to target you. He's going to mess with your life. He's not an intimidating man. He's not a strong man. He's not a frighteningly intelligent man. He is just a guy who is so far gone from reality and so deranged that his intimidation value lies just within that. And it's kind of a shame that Tony Beckley really never went on to anything that much after this. I mean, he died just a few months after this movie premiered. So probably during the production of this motion picture, he was sick, which led to the gaunt appearance, the skeletal frame, all that kind of stuff. He died, technically they said of cancer, but a lot of people that knew him said, it was more HIV thing, but this was back then when they didn't know what was what. And, it's a sad ending to a career that probably could have went on to some bigger things, because he was really, really effective in this. And if he didn't make you believe him in this motion picture, the rest of the motion picture doesn't mean anything. No matter how good Charles Durning is, no matter how good Colleen Dewhurst is, or Carol Kane is, it didn't make a difference. If you didn't believe Tony Beckley, you didn't believe this motion picture, and you believed him because of his performance. So he deserves definite props for that. Are there problems with this motion picture? Well, of course there are. I mean, this is basically a semi-low-budgety feeling grindhouse. We're going to get the babysitter and have a psycho killer on the loose type of flick. We all know there's been a million of them. We have all seen 1,000 of them. It doesn't make a difference. It was run-of-the-mill cannon fodder that just happened to be done right. But it had a lot of problems in it. There's plot holes in this thing where you're like, how did he get from here? And how did he know that? There's things like that, and you're going to spot them. There's some production things in this thing that are just amazing that made it into the motion picture. There are scenes when they're in the original house in the beginning of this thing where you can see the lighting equipment that they used to light Carol Kane and then the parents sitting on the couch. It's in the shot. It's in the fucking shot. You can see the lighting rigs, the tripods, the movie lighting and everything that shines down on the couch When they shot the scenes from the other room, they didn't even move the shit out of there. They didn't even get rid of the gear. They just said, who will know what that is? Everybody will know what that is. So there's things in this motion picture, again, where you just sit there and you say, are you shitting me? Really? They didn't even make that effort? The actors delivered? You went through all this shit and you didn't even move the lighting rig? Really? I mean, in a motion picture like this, you expect little things. You expect the microphone to hang down when somebody's talking. You get that kind of stuff. But that shit's pretty blatant. In the end, though, the situation is as this. There's things in this motion picture you're going to scratch your head and say, plot hole. There's moments when you're going to sit in there and kind of laugh and say, why? But you're going to overlook all that because you have 20 of the best opening minutes of a motion picture, especially of this kind, that's ever been filmed. And you have a movie that knows how to keep a certain level all the way through it. Again, it never reaches that zenith again. Again, the ending was kind of like, all right. I mean, yeah, there was some tension, yeah, but all in all, as a movie-going experience for this kind of flick and this kind of genre, When a Stranger Calls, it's damn good, and it will leave an impression on you. And God forbid, if you've seen other movies that have ripped it off before you see this, you have to understand, when this did it, it was the first time that phone scene was done, and it was gripping. Okay, everybody, get out there and watch When a Stranger Calls. It's good, it's solid, it's effective, it has a legendary beginning, and surprisingly, all the hallmarks of that genre are not here. There's really no nudity, there's basically no blood, I don't even think there's profanity in it. But the mood, and the vibe, and the terror, and the tension are all there, and that's all you need. Okay, everybody, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a stranger. Be good to a friend. But most of all, under no circumstances, ever, and I mean ever, take any bullshit from anybody. See you soon.